Hello everyone, my name is Curtis, and today I'm going to do a review for House of Payne, Season 14, Episode 12. The episode started where the last one ended. If you all remember, Calvin and Laura, they got into a heated argument about what happened at Christian's birthday party, and if you all remember, Laura, she ended up leaving early, and so once Calvin got home, he saw that she was on the phone, and she was actually talking to her father, and her father has actually just arrived. Calvin looks at Laura and he's just like, "Are you serious right now?" She's just like, "Look, I do not feel like this is going to work out." He was like, "So you're just going to run away before we can have a conversation about it?" And so she doesn't actually have an answer, and so her father actually chimes in. He tells Calvin that he feels like his daughter has given everything that she can when it comes to this relationship, but it does not appear that it's going to work out. So Calvin's just like, "Listen, I understand that she is your daughter, but she is my fiance, so therefore we need to have a conversation amongst ourselves to try to figure this out. We do not really need you in the mix right now." Laura's father tells him that he does not disagree with them, which is why he has not stepped in during the many issues that they have had. Calvin's like, "Many issues? What are you talking about? We haven't had many issues." Her father is just like, that's not what she told me. And so Calvin's just like, "Listen, I'm just going to say this one more time. This is a conversation between me and my fiance. You need to step out. You need to get out of it so we can have a conversation to try to get this resolved. We cannot do this with you here, so I'm respectfully asking you to leave." And he says, "I'm not going anywhere unless she says that I need to go." And I was just like, whoa, wait a minute. Listen, I get that he is there for his daughter. I respect it, I do. But you're really coming in this man's house and trying to boss him around, telling him that you're not going to leave? Like, you need to chill out before Calvin whoop your ass, bro. Calvin looks over at Laura like, "Are you going to ask him to leave?" And she's like, "I'm not going to ask him to leave. I called him over here for a reason. I do not want him to leave." And so he's just like, right now, I just feel like the emotions are very high. I feel like we should not try to make any decisions in this moment because we're going to do it based off of emotions, not based off of what is right. Like, let's just think about it for a second. Like, I do not want you to make a rash decision. And she's like, "This is not a rash decision. Like, you and I have been going through a lot lately and we have had issues." And he's like, "Oh, we have had issues and we've been going through a lot?" And she was like, "Well, okay. I have been having issues. I've been going through a lot when it comes to your family." He was like, "Oh, really?" She was like, "Why are you acting like you are so confused about it?" "Yes, I've been having issues with your family." Calvin is just like, "Okay, and like, why does it matter? Like, you are marrying me." And she's like, "Yeah, but if I'm marrying you, that means I'm marrying into your family," which is true. "So if I'm dealing with some bullshit now, I'm definitely going to be dealing with bullshit once we get married." Then he's like, "Well, my family can learn to love you." And then he starts to go on this tangent about, how they are just going through a rough patch and how they can get over it. And then her father chimes in, and I was just like, "Sir, I'm gonna need you to stay out of this. Like, just let them have a conversation." Once again, I get that it's your daughter. You want to protect her. You feel like he did not protect her, so you want to step in and make sure you were extra protective. But please let them have this moment. Like, you do not need to be chiming in all the time. He tells Calvin that respect has to be the foundation for everything that is built, and it has become clear that his family does not have respect for his daughter. Calvin says that it's not true, and he's just like, "Listen to me, son. I'm sure you feel that way because that is your family, but they have not been respectful towards Laura. And to be honest, I feel like you have allowed it to happen." And he says, "You were supposed to protect her, but you did not." Laura chimes in and she's just like, "Exactly. Like, in that moment, I needed you to protect me. I needed you to be a man. You did not do either one. And to me, that is a deal breaker." And so he reiterates what he said in the last episode, which was, "I would have protected you if I felt like you needed protection." And so her father chimes in and is like, "Well, why didn't you protect her in that moment?" And so Calvin actually rushes up towards him. I was like, "Oh shit, what's about to happen?" And he says, "Listen to me. I do not need any direction when it comes to being a man, so you can really shut the fuck up." And so when it comes to Laura, she's like, "Don't disrespect him." And he's like, "I'm not disrespecting him, but he needs to respect me, especially when he's in my house." Laura's just like, "You know what's crazy about what you just said? I said the same thing to your mother." And so Calvin's just looking like, and so when it comes to her father, he's like, "So what do you want to do? Do you want to stay here, try to work it out with him? Do you want to leave? Like, what do you want to do?" And she says that she wants to go. And so when it comes to Calvin, he's like, "Are you sure this is what you want to do? Like, I hope you know what you're doing once you leave." And she says, "You know what? I do know what I'm doing. I'm leaving." She says bye, and then she walks out. After this, we see Calvin. He is sitting down on the couch and he's thinking about everything that has happened. And then Junior walks in. And Junior sees him and he feels like something's wrong. So he's like, "Is everything okay?" And he's like, "I'm fine." He was like, "Are you sure everything is okay?" He was like, "I'm fine, Junior." And he's like, "You know something about adults. You all always think that kids are dumb, that kids are stupid, like we do not know what's going on. We know what's going on. We know when something's wrong with you all." He was like, "I do not think that you are dumb. I do not think that you are stupid, which is why I have an issue with you getting these bad grades at school. Junior is just like, wait a minute, hold on for a second. We are talking about you right now. Why are we having a discussion about me and my grades? Let's focus on you and what's going on with you. And so Calvin's like, listen to me, I know that you want to joke around, but I'm being serious. Going forward, I do expect better out of you when it comes to schoolwork. And when it comes to your report card, I expect to see better grades. And so when it comes to Junior, he attempts to pivot and he's like, when it comes to Christian's party, it was actually really fun. Calvin's like, it was fun. And he asked him if he can have a party. Calvin tells Junior that he can have a party once his grades gets better. And so Junior's like, what, I'm trying. Calvin's like, well, try harder. I said, well, damn, Calvin, hold on for a second. Like, listen, I'm here for tough parenting, but I'm just like, is this tough parenting? Or are you taking out the anger that you have for Laura and her father? I don't know, Junior. Like, I needed some clarification on that because he was coming at him a little hard. Calvin asks Junior if he is aware that he is on academic and disciplinary probation at school. And he tells him that his mom told him. And he says, you will not be able to go back to the school until you fix your behavior. And he says, you know what, I will do better. And so Junior, he gets up and it appears that he's going to go to his room. But then he's like, wait, where's Laura? He says, I saw Laura leaving. Like, why was she leaving? Like, is everything okay? And Calvin says, well, did she say anything to you when you saw her? And he says, yes, she said that she loves me. And he's like, she does love you. And he was like, so is everything okay? Did you two get into an argument? Like, what happened? Calvin is just like, what, son, I want to be honest with you. I'm not really sure what's going to happen between me and Laura, but I want to make sure that you still get the same love that you would have received if she was still here. We go to the Payne household and we see Ella, we see Floyd, we see Curtis. And when it comes to Curtis and Floyd, they are going over a contract. And this contract has so many red lines. I was cracking up. And so Floyd was like, why are there so many red lines on this contract? And Ella was like, because you all went to that janky, fast-talking lawyer. That's why. As the three of them are talking, CJ comes into the kitchen and he says that he wants to talk to Curtis. Curtis is just like, look, I do not have any money. Even if I had money, I wouldn't give it to you, so do not ask me. He's like, I'm not going to ask you for money. He was like, well, what do you want? He said, I want to take you shopping. He's like, why do you want to take me shopping? He was like, because you need a suit. And so he's like, I already have suits. CJ was like, listen, I'm not talking about those 3 tacky ass suits that you always wear. I'm talking about getting a brand new suit. So Ella's just like, hey, I bought him those suits. And he's like, and there's actually more than 3 when it comes to Curtis. He's like, I actually have more than 3. I actually have a suit in every single color, so I don't need another suit. Ella asks CJ, why does Curtis need a new suit? And so CJ says, well, when it comes to the weather station, they actually had a contest to see who people feel are their local heroes. And so they actually chose him in regards to CJ, and they chose Curtis. And so they both need new suits for the ceremony. We go back to Calvin's and we see Christian. Calvin asks Christian if he had a good time at his party. He says he had a great time. He asks Christian if he is hungry. He says yes. So he's like, you know what? I will get up and make you some food. And so as Calvin is walking over to the kitchen area, Christian inquires about Laura. He's like, where's Laura? She said that she was going to take me somewhere for my birthday. Where is she at? And so Calvin's just like, well, she's not here right now. We go back to the Payne household and we see Malik, we see Miss Glow. They're having a conversation about Miss Glow's campaign. So Malik tells her that they need to think of a slogan. And so Miss Glow, she gives her version of a slogan, but it's super long-winded. He was like, you know what, that is nice, that is cool, but we need something that is short, sweet, to the point, and something that is catchy. She is just like, what about believing for a brighter future? Malik is just like, I like that, it's cool, but I feel like we need to replace one word. She was like, well, what word do I need to replace? And he was like, well, maybe instead of saying believing for a brighter future, you can say working for a brighter future. And she's like, you know what? I like that. That's cool. And she says, you know what? I need to go downtown. And then she leaves. Janine walks into the room just as Miss Glow is leaving. She's like, hey, how's everything going? He says, everything is going great. We're actually going to meet again tomorrow. As the two of them are talking, Calvin actually walks in and he asks if CJ is there. Malik was like, oh God, what is wrong? He was like, why does something have to be wrong? And as he is saying this, Jasmine is actually walking into the kitchen area. And she's like, because the only time that you come over to visit us is if something is wrong. Calvin is just like, come on, y'all. So Malik was just like, so you really came over here because you want to have a loving conversation with your family? And so Janine and Jasmine were like, oh my God, that's so sweet. Sit down. Let's have a conversation. Tell us about your week. Calvin is like, are you sure that CJ is not here? Janine is like, no, he is not here. And then Malik was like, you sure that you don't want to tell us what kind of mess you got yourself into? He was like, well, actually, I did not get myself into any mess this time. You all did. They were just like, how did we get you into some mess? So he's like, you know what? I do not want to talk about it. I'm getting ready to leave. And so as he is getting ready to leave, Janine actually falls behind him and she's just like, hey, I'm not sure if you noticed, but CJ and Curtis, they are actually being honored this weekend. So Jasmine's like, so you need to buy a suit. And he's like, damn, is that serious? And they were like, yeah, they're being honored for being local heroes, so you definitely need to get a suit. And so Janine's like, oh yeah, make sure that you tell Laura. So he's like, you know what, I gotta go buy. I said, not obvious at all, Calvin. After this, we see Curtis, we see CJ, we see Calvin, we see Miranda, we see Ella. They actually just got back from the ceremony. CJ tells them that he is still in shock that people are now on his side. Ella tells him that when you are a good man, when you are an honest man, it will outlive one incident. And I was like, you know what? That is true. Curtis says that it was great to see all of the family there, including the grandkids. And so Miranda's like, speaking of seeing the family, and she's like, I'm not trying to be messy, but I noticed that Laura was not there. And so Ella was like, you know what, I was going to ask the same question, like, where's Laura? Calvin starts hemming and hawing. He was actually huffing and puffing a lot, but he does eventually say, you know what, when it comes to Laura, she was upset about what happened at the party, and so she actually left me. And so they were like, wait a minute, she left you? He was like, yeah, she left me. And so CJ just like, wait, so she's doing all of this over a phone? And then Curtis was like, no, it's not about a phone, it's about something deeper. Calvin tells them that Laura and her father felt like he was not being a man nor being a protector when it came to that party. They felt like when Miranda started coming at her, when Ella started coming at her, that Calvin should have stepped in and protected her and defended her, but he did not do that. And so when it comes to Laura, she feels like that is a deal breaker and that's why she left. And then he ends the conversation by saying that the engagement is off. And that was the end of the episode. I want to thank you all so much for watching. Really do appreciate it. If you could, please like, comment, share, subscribe. That would be great. Hope you all have a great rest of your day. You take care. Bye.